Well, Eric, thank you so much for the time we're here at the Combine. You talked during your first presser as GM about how Ozzie Newsome invited you to watch the Combine here at your first Combine. So now that you're the GM, are you going to invite him to watch with you?
I don't think so. It was actually at a different stadium back then, but yeah, I was walking around aimlessly back in 1996, and all of a sudden I hear this guy yelling. I look up and Ozzie's kind of waving his hand. He's like, "Come on up." So for the last 23 years, I've been watching with Ozzie and Marvin Lewis, Rick Smith, James Harris, Ray Rhodes back then. We had a crew of guys, and the list has kind of dwindled down, but it's still me and Ozzie, and it's a really good chance for us to talk about the players and strategy and different things.
So you have the 22nd pick in the first round right now. I'm going to put you on the spot. We'll see if you'll answer this. Are you more likely to pick at 22 or somewhere else?
Well, we're going to make a pick.
I knew you were
Promise
going to say that.
at some time. We will make a pick. It just depends. I think it's just the strategy of the draft. If the phone rings, who do we like? Who do we think we can trade back and get? What can we accumulate draft pick-wise, capital-wise? It just depends, and there's really no way of knowing until we get to that point of the draft when we're on the clock.
Well, we're talking trades. You don't have a second-round pick last year. You obviously used that to go up and get Lamar last year. Would you like to try to either move back in the first round or basically accumulate another second-round pick in some fashion?
Well, we'd love to get some more picks.
Okay.
How we do that, I think remains to be seen. But the idea that each draft pick is essentially a lottery ticket, I think, would indicate that we want to get as many picks, especially in this draft where we see about 200 draftable prospects. So for us to get some picks in that sweet spot, which would be the second, third, fourth round, I think would be very, very critical.
Is there a position that you can say that you're definitely going to take someone at some point this year?
I would say probably offensive line. I think there's a good chance we'll take somebody at some point. Probably receiver and running back might be in that mix too.
Well, receiver, we always love to talk receiver every offseason. What are your impressions, generally speaking, of this year's receiver class?
Well, they look good on the stage. There's some really big, physical, strapping guys with long arms, guys that can catch the ball. I think, we have a chance to watch them this week perform under the microscope to see how they catch, how they compete. We'll have a chance to talk to a lot of guys, interview a lot of guys to really assess their character and their background, their personality, and all those different things that kind of go into it. And we'll have a list of probably 10 or 15 guys that we think are interesting at some point.
You talked yesterday during your presser about how you would like to find young players to pair with Lamar at the receiver position. But do you also see free agency as an option? That's been an area where over history you've had a lot of success finding good players to come in. Do you see free agency as an option to address the position, or are you really thinking draft?
I think we've got to use all the available resources. That's the draft, that's undrafted players, that's free agency, that's post-May free agency, that's other leagues, whatever it is, we've got to find good players to help our team win.
There's a debate, I think, that's gone on over time about running backs in the first round. A few years ago, it seemed like teams were moving away from it. Then you've got guys like Zeke Elliott and Saquon Barkley that come in and make immediate impacts, and now it seems like the pendulum is maybe swinging back in the other direction. Where do you stand on that first round running back discussion?
If the guy's a freak, take him. I mean, if you have a chance to take a great player, then you should draft him, regardless of position.
What are the positions in this year's draft where you feel like you can maybe get quality players in the later rounds? I mean, you talk about how there's 200 draftable players. Obviously, that means it's a deep draft in a lot of ways.
I mean, I think all the positions at some point you have a chance to take a really good undervalued player that fits you and has a chance to contribute right away, and we've done that over the years. We try to just take guys that are productive players, guys that have been durable players, guys that have played consistently at a very high level. Historically, I think offensive linemen, safeties, possibly a tight end, running backs, I think all provide good value in the later rounds. Inside linebacker, tough to get a left tackle or a corner probably, or a quarterback in the later rounds.
This isn't related to the Combine, but something that we've seen from you since you've moved into this role is a desire to extend players like you did with Tavon Young before they ever hit the open market. Can you just shed some light on the benefits of that process and why you want to do that?
Well, you know your own guys. You have a chance to watch them every single day. You have a chance to see how they interact with their teammates and with their coaches in the building and how they compete on Sundays and in practice. So if you bring a guy back, it's because you have enough evidence that you really want to bring him back. Free agency, the idea of free agency, historically is more dicey. You don't know the players coming from other places. It's more risky of a proposition. So the idea that you could lock up players, bring in good young players, develop those players, you know who they are, and you can keep them on a second contract, I think is very enticing and probably a smart way to go.
And lastly, you talk about free agency, it's right around the corner. It's just 2 weeks away. How active do you expect to be in that free agency marketplace?
I think as active as we need to be. You know, I think we'll try to get some things done with our players if we can, all things being equal. We like to bring our own guys back. We like to allocate as many of our resources as we can to players who are currently on the team. You know, again, with the idea that free agency is a tool that we will use if we need to use it. We're also very excited about the draft process, the fact that we have these draft picks. We think we'll do really well this year in the undrafted free agency portion as well. And I think we'll have a really good opportunity to build a very strong team.
Awesome. Eric, thank you so much for the time and enjoy your week here in Indy.
Take care.